Hello everyone and welcome back to Cendric's Weather channel. Today we are going to take a look at the latest from the midday set of runs to see what they are showing for the next couple of weeks. We'll have a look at all the main models as we normally do with a little Cendric twist and I'll tell you about that later on in the video. So we're going to run through obviously the models, like the main ones, and we're going to see what the trends are. Now, as you've seen for recently, we've been under areas of high pressure, so it's been pretty settled and quite warm. Today, we've still reached, again, 24 degrees in Norfolk in London, so it's still been pretty warm. However, those, as you see here on this chart, mild temperatures are beginning to be pushed away as the Atlantic tries to make an attack. As you can see, low pressure sat just to the south of Greenland and Iceland, and it is ready to move in. So let's see what they show. So, into Sunday, we have low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. Winds are transferring into more of a westerly direction. And as you can see, the warmer air masses are being cleared away by slightly cooler or Atlantic-driven air masses. There will definitely be a chill to the air, even though the temperatures will still be 12 or 13 degrees in many places. Tomorrow, you will see that temperature drop of about 8 to 10 degrees in some places. So it definitely will make a difference. But as you can see, low pressures begin to move in from off the Atlantic into the early part of next week. It's very unsettled. Areas of low pressure skirting around the UK, bringing wet weather to the east on Wednesday and possibly to the west and northwest on Tuesday and Monday as well. But that stalls to the east and southeast, keeping that cooler air masses in. With the GFS, though, it brings up another area of low pressure from the south. That could bring the wet weather into areas of the south and southeast. And there's an area of low pressure to the north. That could be bringing some rain to the north. Just looks very unsettled. High pressure ridges out in the Atlantic, though, and turns the flow into more of a northerly. Areas of low pressure are spinning around. You see this area of low pressure developing just to the south, going into France on Sunday next week. And we're transferring the wind back into a colder, or cooler northerly, I should say. We are on the 20th of April. Don't want to get shouted at for calling it cold, but it would be a cooler northerly, northeasterly, as high pressure sits out in the Atlantic, and that is pulling in some cooler air. The -5 line shoots southwards. Low pressure sits to the east, and it looks quite cool and changeable. Eventually, high pressure makes re-establish itself over the top of the country, and we turn drier and milder again, with winds in from off the Atlantic. So, pretty mild there, or turning milder. Obviously, we've had a bit of a cooler interlude after that. But it would turn a little bit milder before we see more transient northerlies and northwesterlies setting up as high pressures in the Atlantic. So, pretty ridgy, but not going towards Greenland, so not bringing down any cooler air. Just looks very average, really, with areas of low pressure next week. Looks a little bit more unsettled than was suggested before, I must say. Does look like a bit of a deluge pattern with these areas of low pressure spinning to the south on this run, but again, we'll have to wait and see. So that's very unsettled for the north, northeast, northwest, and the south and southwest in particular. Central Britain probably not too bad, but we'll still see some rainfall. Now, next we'll move on to the GEM, as we always do. Again, very similar pattern. The Atlantic-driven air is beginning to move in tomorrow into Monday. Low pressure sat just to the west, bringing the wettest weather into the north and northwest. Area of low pressure develops just to the east, going into Scandinavia. That could produce a little bit of rain in the far south and southeast. And then there's a low pressure set just out to our west, bringing areas of rain to the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. A low pressure, high pressure re-establishes itself to the north again, mid-Atlantic ridge by the end of, through to the mid to the end of next week, around Friday. And low pressure is drifting southwards, with the jet stream dipping southwards with that high pressure going north. And we begin to see more Atlantic-driven low pressure systems moving up. But also, with this one, it's a very complicated pattern. We have low pressure just sat over the south, and there's another low pressure towards Spain, but we have a low pressure sat just over into the south of the country. That's bringing in warm air, or milder air from the southwest, but we also have a push of colder air, helped by the block, bringing down colder air into Scotland, so that could actually produce some snow for northern areas of Scotland. Very, very marginal, though, of course, because of the time of year. Probably won't happen either. But in the extended range, high pressure just established itself towards the north and the northwest. Northeast, I should say. Northwest, yes. Northwest. And we begin to bring the wind in from a northeast, but it's staying quite dry. but a little bit chilly as well with the -5 line over the top of the country. Nothing ridiculous, but could be quite chilly by night. Not too bad by day because it is the 3rd week of April. But definitely would have a chill to the feel of the air compared to what we've seen recently anyway. But again, frost could be an issue if this came off. But again, looks quite unsettled, more for central regions with this run. So again, a little bit of uncertainty, but it is the GEM, so how reliable is the GEM is open to question. We've finally got the ECM, which has low pressure over central England on Wednesday, and just to the north, that's going to be bringing some wet weather into central and southern Britain. Areas of low pressure spiralling around as the Atlantic's ridging. We see some ridging in the Atlantic, sending down these low pressure systems. Quite a deep area of low pressure beginning to develop over France by Saturday next week, with the ECM bringing some wet weather and colder air to the north again, but mild air to the south could be bringing lots of wet weather in. However, with the ECM, we get an area of low pressure trapped over the top of the UK. High pressures to our north. Looks quite mild with winds in from the southeast, but quite unsettled further south and west. So a very mixed bag of weather, I'd say. But again, could be. There's a lot of blocking and ridging going on with this run, so it wouldn't take much for us to shove this high pressure out the way towards Scandinavia and bring in the wind from a northerly direction. But again, open to question. We'll have a look at the icon. This only goes out to 7 days out, but we'll see. It's good to see the general trends again. Low pressure to the north and west through the early part of next week could bring some wet weather into the north and northwest. And an area of low pressure pushes northwards. This one looks to bring more widespread rain. It's not too developed, but it would bring quite wet weather into particularly east and southeast, but not exclusively. So many areas would see some rain with this on Wednesday. That moves northwards. A low pressure sinks southwards before undeveloping. It just looks quite unsettled with winds in from the northeast, but you can see this is bringing mild air masses back in again to the south and southeast. Colder air is drifting slightly to the north. But it is quite a complicated pattern. I would not expect it to come off like this, if I'm being innocent. I think the icon's got it a bit wrong there. If we have a look at the GFS ensembles for the next couple of weeks, you can see that we are above average at the moment, but you can see that's going to be cleared away by fresher air masses over the next couple of days. Then we have a little bit more of a milder interlude again before there is a lot of scatter. But we are, with the ensemble mean, trending slightly cooler than average. There is the GFS run there going quite cold, but it's in the outlier section. There's a couple doing it, but it's not favoured at the moment. Towards the end of the run, temperatures are returning to around average, albeit with a lot of scatter. Some cooler runs down here and some milder runs up here. I'd expect it to be around here, to be honest, this line here. With the so I just expect it to be not too bad, to be honest. I reckon it'll be around here, just slightly above average to end the month. I think that we will see quite a decent end to the month with some quite sunny pleasant days. I do think the unsettled spell will get toned down, as I've said before, but at the moment it does look between about the 16th and the 20th quite unsettled, with lots of showery bursts and maybe longer spells of rain, particularly in the south, southeast, the north and the northwest. So there we go. We'll see how things develop with that. If we have a look at the ECM WF run, the midnight run, you can see it follows a very similar trend. If I just drag that over like that, and then I do this, and then I click that button there. Who do I think I am? Then you can see that the ECM doesn't really have that cooler interlude, but just keeps us around average. Couple of cooler runs in there, but most are trending to around average. So it looks pretty average to maybe slightly below average, I guess. And again, at the end of the run, very end of the run, a long way off and uncertain, but there are quite a few milder runs in the mix. So we'll just see how things develop, shall we? But yeah, the trends are looking relatively interesting. Now, I did just want to show you this at the end of the video. This is the UKV precipitation type forecast for the next 5 days. So I'm just going to show you that it will turn a little bit more unsettled, and this is what we know so far. So wet weather is now finally beginning to push in from off the Atlantic, but it is quite patchy and sporadic more particularly concentrated in the north and northwest. That is moving in from off the Atlantic, and that is bringing some areas of rain, which could turn wintry over the highest ground of northern Scotland through the early hours of Sunday morning, as there is some slightly cooler air digging into Scotland. More patchy showery rain for many parts of the country, particularly in the east and the northwest, through Sunday afternoon. Into Monday, could be quite heavy spells of rain pushing into northwest Scotland and central northern England, and maybe the central southern spell of Scotland as well. That could turn again wintry over the highest ground over northern hills of Scotland. Before more developed areas of precipitation begin moving in through Monday. Looks quite wet, but particularly further north. And then we've got a weather front moving in from off the Atlantic. On Tuesday, that could bring some heavier spells of rain. There's that area of low pressure we mentioned. With the UKV, it's taking it into Scandinavia. So that's bringing a slight bit of quite heavy and maybe torrential downpours into the east and far southeast. Another area of low pressure bringing some rain to central southern Britain. That looks quite heavy and could even be a couple of embedded thunderstorms depending on Cape. If we have a look at the Cape, there is a little area of greens that suggest slight Cape, so there could be enough energy for a few thunderstorms mixed into these very heavy bursts, or a few thunderclaps or something, so that might be something of note. Before it does turn more patchy and showery by Thursday afternoon, so it looks very, 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 very mixed, but quite unsettled, to be fair. It didn't look as unsettled as a few days ago, especially with the GFS, but it looks like the unsettled theme has returned with a vengeance. So, again, we'll just have to see how things develop. But there you go. Thank you all very much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy and you found it informative, make sure to consider leaving us a like and subscribing to the channel. We are about 15 subscribers away from 1.6k, and I do appreciate continued support. And if you do want to support me, give a donation or anything, the link is in the description. You don't have to. I thank you all very much for watching. Watching is good enough for me, and I'll see you all in the next one.